Don't do it. Don't push that button. Be cool now. You're better than this. Don't turn off control room.
Don't push the button!
Hello guys and welcome back. Dom here, and on this video I'm going to talk about a Cubase feature that doesn't get enough praise. It doesn't get the respect that it deserves, and that's the control room. So in this video I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should always use control room if you're a Cubase Pro user, and I'm going to tell you why right now. So let's talk about control room today, one of the most powerful Cubase features, and I have to say one of the most unique Cubase features, because this is one of the things that really separate Cubase to other DAWs. Now, for some weird reason that I don't understand, some people are really scared of control room. I really have no idea why that is. Basically, they go to their audio connections and you see we have our inputs, our outputs, we have our control room. And what they do is they go here, they say, okay, I'm going to set my outputs right here, 1 and 2, and then they go to control room like, no, I don't know what that is. Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, you know? Don't be scared of control room, guys. It's an amazing feature, you know? Don't turn it off. If you're using Cubase Pro, there is no reason to turn it off, seriously. Now, another argument is that, oh, you know, I don't need all these features that control room has. I don't need the cues. I don't need to monitor. I'm not going to record other musicians, and I don't need it. Well, that's the point of this video, right? So let's start. Reason number 1 why you'd want to use the control room. Number 1, you can do A/B referencing with other mixes, with reference tracks, with client mixes. You can compare versions of your own song and see if you've done better. This is all possible and very easy to do using control room. So let me show you. I have my control room right here, okay? Let's go to my control room tab. And as you can see, I have my mix and I have my C1. This is my first cue. So now all I need to do is I need to play my track, okay? And I can compare the before and after version, right? Maybe I can have a version 1, then go to version 2 and see, did I improve it? Did I do anything that's better? So let's play this and we can have a look. Let's say that this is the mix and this is the master, and I want to beat that master, right? So let's play it. And maybe I want to work towards this mastering and make it better, you know? And then I can compare between the two. This is the most basic function. People buy plugins for this. People buy monitor controllers for this so that they can do this simple switch that I do at the push of a button here, or using a shortcut, or using my Kensington Slim Blade. I love this thing. Have you watched the video about the Kensington Slim Blade? If you haven't, I'm gonna link it right here. I've done a dedicated video about how to do A/B referencing with control room, so please check it out. I'm gonna link it right here, and go and check out how you can set it up and everything. I go into a lot of detail on that video. Now, one of the things that I want to tell you before I close the first reason is that on your reference track, on your cue mix, right, you need to make sure that you are on cue and not on mix, because if you are on mix, nothing will happen. You need to be on cue, okay? I thought that this makes sense, but I think that some people missed it on the video that I made, even though it was there. But you know, it's a very fair point. You need to have your cue set as your input for your reference, okay? Reason number 2, we don't even need to discuss about this, it's metering, right? Look at that. Check out this meter here, this beautiful meter, right? This section to begin with is only there when you activate control room. And here you can do all these beautiful things. You can have your master meter like this, nice and big. How many DAWs have this built in? Like a nice big meter that you can see from the edge of the room, okay? If you're recording an orchestra, you can have a look at a tiny screen and you can see if you're clipping, if you're near zero. How many DAWs have that? People buy plugins that have like massive meters, and I also have some of them, but this is built in. Activate Control Room in order to get this. And as you can see, we have many scales: digital scale, DIN scale, EBU scale, British scale. I'm not gonna go through all of them. K20, Bobcat scale, all these things, Then we have a loudness meter. This is an LUFS meter. So you run your track through it and it gives you the integrated LUFS loudness, right? So this is really relevant these days for Spotify, for iTunes. You have to keep an eye on this. Always, use your judgment, but you need to know where you are at some point if you're going to release your music. Also, if you're a film composer, if you're writing music for games, for films, this is very strict. You're in a very strict territory if you're producing music for games, for films, for TV. You cannot just go blind. You need something like this. Again, control room feature. Use it. Even that reason alone, along with the A-B referencing, is enough. Do you need more? Anyway, I'm gonna give you 3 more. So reason number 3 is, of course, the Q sense, right? Now, I really support the idea that if you're using a DAW, find its strong points and use them to your advantage. Control room is one of these advantages that Cubase has compared to other DAWs. Let me give you a scenario. Let's say that you are in a recording studio and you have produced your track, but you want to add some orchestral elements and you've invited some really cool musicians, and you have the cello player. How do you send these people a feed to their headphones, right? You do this with QSense. Where do you find QSense? If you press F4 and go to your audio connections, control room, there you will find, number 1, your monitors. These are your speakers. Easy. Your cues. In this case, I have my reference cue, which I use for A-Bing, mixes. You can also add channels. You can add headphone mixes. You can add more speakers, and you can switch between them all through Cubase without any hardware controller. You can have a talkback mic. You can have external inputs. It's very deep. But let's say I want to add another cue because I want to send my musicians a headphone mix, right? I add another cue, and let's call this musician. Okay? Now I can send this to an output on my audio interface. I can decide which one. I'm not going to do it at this stage because it doesn't really matter. But now, if I want to send this, on most DAWs, what happens is people create buses, and they send the tracks to all the buses, and they use the sends and all these things. And that's, the traditional way, but it's a very slow way. Check out how you can do it. You can just show your Q sense on your mixer, okay? And then here we are. We have our cues, and this is what our musicians are going to listen. Right now, my cues are off, they're not hearing anything. So if I want to activate them, I can just select all the channels, okay? And Alt-Shift, like with everything in Cubase, this affects all the channels that I have selected. Activate, reference, or activate my musician mix. Actually, that's what we need. And now I can say, okay, here's your feed. Now I'm sending them a feed from all the channels. Pretty easy. I did it in like 2 clicks. 1, 2, like that. Then let's say that you want to give the musicians their own mix. And maybe you want to start with your own mix as a reference. That's very easy to do. Check out these levels right here. I can go here now. Okay, go to Control Room QSense and say use current mix levels. And check out those faders, right? Those sliders. And boom! Now my musicians have the exact same mix on their headphones like I have. But let's say our cello player says, you know what? I want less drums. Okay, I can go to my drums and say, okay, less drums. That's fine. More of this, less of that. That's good. That's pretty awesome. When you work with musicians, you need to have the flexibility that we have here. Just think about it. Let's say that at some point you do work with musicians. When you're using another DAW, there are DAWs that don't even have these facilities, okay? They're working with very basic send effects and send and returns and all these things. When you find yourself in a situation like this, Cubase has your back. Cubase is a very creative DAW. It's not like a sterile tape recorder, You know what I'm talking about. Let's not name people and DAWs. It's not like a tape recorder, right? It's very creative, it's very musical, it invites you to produce music. But when it comes a time that you end up having to be an audio engineer or having to be a recording engineer, it's got your back. It has all the features that you need. I've seen people using other DAWs and we go to a recording situation and musicians start asking, more, I want some reverb, I want some of that, I want some more trumpet, I want less bass, and they go like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. How do you do this? They think that they have to go to a large-scale console to do this on an SSL or something. No. If you're using Cubase, Cubase got your back. Now, let's say that you're just recording yourself and you're a one-man band or a one-woman band, right? And you have your drums, you've created a backing track, and then you want to sing your vocals, but you prefer not to hear some elements of the production. You prefer to have a completely different mix when you're tracking. I do this a lot of times, okay? Sometimes my tracks, my songs have so many synths that if I want to add an element that is very delicate and I want to have a very clear idea of how it sounds, sometimes I want to get rid of things. Maybe I want to get rid of effects or of whooshes or all these things. What do you do then? That's where the cues can help you, even if you're working on your own, because you can say, okay, well, I have my mix there, it's copied, I'm going to use this cue to track, right? And I'm going to turn off the elements that I don't need for tracking, Or you might invite a bass player, and you want to keep them very, very focused on the rhythm section, and you want to give them only drums. What would you do? Would you destroy your mix? Would you start muting all these things? And then what? You have to remember to bring them back. Well, don't do this, just use a cue. And then you can create a different mix when you're tracking and a different mix when you are mixing. And you don't touch your mix. Your mix remains sacred, remains untouched. Reason number 4, and that's, again, a super important thing, is that we have monitoring insert effects, okay? They live here. Check them out. Control room, inserts, okay? There we go. Now, as you can see, I have 3 insert effects here. I have my Clarity M, which is my meter. I have Tonal Balance Control 2 from Isotope. That's great for checking out your balance between your frequencies. And I also have the SonarWorks Reference 4. For my headphones, sometimes I want to add a little bit of correction to my headphones. This is a great plugin, right? Now, the benefit of adding these plugins there instead of adding it to your stereo out, quite a few benefits actually. Number 1, you don't sacrifice insert slots for your monitoring effects, okay? These are already 3 slots, and sometimes I add more. I would sacrifice just 3 inserts just to do my basic monitoring. Number 2, you don't have to have a template and always have these effects on your master bus. Why? Because these effects remain there, okay? They're not project specific. They're not tied to a project. They're there whenever you launch Cubase, whatever project you open, they will remain there. You can turn them off, you can change them, but they will remain as you left them. So you don't have to remember to turn on your room correction plugin. You don't have to remember to turn on your metering plugin. You don't have to do all that. The other benefit is that there is no way that you will make this huge mistake of bouncing your song with the room correction plugin on. If you use another DAW and you add it to the stereo out, there are high chances that at some point it will happen. And you will look like a fool to your clients, even to yourself. You'd be like, something's wrong with this. Why is it sounding weird? It sounded great in the studio. Why does it sound weird on my earphones? Well, that's because the monitoring plugins shouldn't be in the stereo bus. It should be in the monitoring section of the DAW, if it has one. Okay? Oh man, I've become really excited about this. Anyway, I've seen this happening many times. It has happened to, people that I know, and they were really embarrassed. And, okay, if you don't use Cubase, that's fine. There's no other way. But if you do use Cubase, just use the control room, right? Just use it. Just don't think about it. Reason number 5 is ergonomics. Okay, let me explain, because these are quite a few things. I cannot go through all of them, but I'm just going to show you a few, okay? So here's my control room. Some things that I always do when I'm recording, and again, when you're tracking other people. Do you use the metronome? Let me know. Do you use the metronome? No, don't let me know, because everybody uses the metronome. Everybody uses a click, okay? So with control room, you can activate and deactivate the click, okay? I'm just telling you a few ergonomics that are really useful, okay? Let's go. Off, on. It's right there. Okay, that's fine, but we have a shortcut for this. Perfect. But how do you turn down the volume for the metronome if you don't have control room activated? You will go to transport and go to metronome setup and blah, 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 blah. You don't need to do this. Activate control room and you have control over your click level. Not only that, you can say, I want to have the click only on the left channel or the right channel, because some people like to track like this, They go like this, and there's no point having a click here where it would spill. All these things are not just small things. These will make or break your recording, So just ban it here. Doesn't come from this side, okay? Small things like that. How many DAWs can do that? They add a metronome click, they bounce it in audio so that they can just go left and right. I'm not trying to be, dismissive of other DAWs. All I'm trying to say is if you're using Cubase Pro, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to use control room. You can check your mono compatibility of your mix, because you can down mix in mono. Check out. With one click. You can also dim your levels, You can just go like this and say, I want to dim, okay? So if somebody's talking to you, you can assign this to a keystroke, and then you can press dim and the volume will go down, like a control room section of a console. You can turn down your volume, but not turning down your master bus. See, your master bus is intact. You just turn down your monitoring volume, okay? This is extremely useful. You can also listen to what your musician is listening to their cue, because you can go like this and listen to their cue, all these things. Or you can have your musician listen to your mix. And you can say, you know what, I'm tracking this musician. I don't want to have the click. I want to hear exactly what happens. So you can deactivate the click for you, and you can activate the click for the musician. How cool is that? Can you imagine how much routing, how many, DIY solutions you would have to find in order to do this without the control room? Keep control room alive. Don't kill it. Control room loves you. Another thing, when talking about ergonomics, I don't want to forget this. With control room activated, you can listen every channel of your mix, okay? Let me explain. How many times have you wanted to just listen a parallel compressor in solo without listening to the original signal? How many times do you want to listen to just the reverb, and then you do pre-fade, you turn down your channel volume, and then you go pre-fade, listen, and all these things? You don't need to do all these things when you have control room activated. Let me show you, okay? So let's say that I want to listen to, let's find something that's going to be hard to listen if we don't have control room. So let's say you want to listen to this snare reverb, okay? Without listening to the actual snare. How do you do this? You know, if you mute these, then the reverb won't play anything. If you solo it, then you also hear the dry snare, right? So the solution is just pressing this L button here. Check out. Whatever this is, it could be a parallel compressor, it could be anything. Cubase just shuts everything off and just highlights this channel. And when I say highlights, I really mean it. You can set the listen dim level to your liking. For example, if I want to hear a little bit of the track, I can go like this. Check out. Or completely turn everything else off. So I can isolate reverbs, send effects, parallel compression effects, anything that I want. If you don't have control room activated, this function doesn't work. It's just not there, it's not available. So you guys must probably know by now that I'm a huge fan of control room, but I hope that after this video you will give control room a try and you will be a much happier Cubase user. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of control room? Did you use it up to this point? Did you know the things that it can do? Are you going to start using it, or are you gonna stick with the old ways and disable it? Don't do it. Whatever the case might be, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button, it really helps me out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and share it with any Cubase user that you know that presses that disable control room button. Save control room. We still have time. Take care, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.